There is a reason why Arminians hate context. It's because the context of whatever passage they are using as a proof text never allows for their interpretation. Such is seen in John 12:32. They see the words all men, and that's all they need to build their doctrine. Unfortunately for them, sound doctrine takes more than snatching a couple words from their context and assuming a meaning on them. Let's look at the verse in question, then look to the context and allow that to define the meaning of all men. And I, if I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all men to myself. Any half-hearted attempt to read the Bible will demonstrate that the Jews believed salvation was for the Jews alone. The Gentiles were considered dogs and not worthy of the God of Israel. Therefore, according to their understanding, when the Messiah was to come, he was coming for the Jews. This is seen in the context as we note the Old Testament quotations. Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. And again in verse 15. Fear not, daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt. Take note of the phrase, King of Israel and daughter of Zion, your king. These passages are what gave rise to their understanding of the Messiah coming for Israel alone. So the Pharisees said to one another, you see that you are not doing any good. Look, the world has gone after him. Notice the words of the Pharisees. They said, the world has gone after him. Were the Pharisees watching every single person to ever live go after Christ? Were they witnessing Moses going after Christ? Did they witness you going after Christ? Heck, were they going after Christ? Obviously not. Clearly, world had a limited meaning, and it would be stupid to define it the way the Arminians do. Who was the world that was going after Christ in this scene? Verse 20 tells us. Now there were some Greeks among those who were going up to worship at the feast. The world is the Greeks, not the Romans, Egyptians, Chinese, French, or Americans. The word world simply meant the Greeks. In other words, the word world is used as a designation for non-Jew. Moreover, was every Greek coming to Christ? Even though they said Greeks and referred to the Greeks as the world, it still meant a limited number and not every individual person. Now we get to verse 32. Let's look at it again. And I, if I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all men to myself. Christ is here correcting any misunderstandings regarding their error in thinking he only came for Jews. When he said all men, he was simply including non-Jews as part of those for whom he came to die for. It is an unwarranted assertion to assume that all men is speaking of individuals. The context simply does not allow for it. All men is in reference to nations or ethnic groups, not individuals. Moreover, if we continue on in the passage, we see something quite significant. But though he had performed so many signs before them, yet they were not believing in him. This was to fulfill the word of Isaiah the prophet, which he spoke, Lord, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? People were not believing in him because a prophecy had to be fulfilled. This is stated with even more force in the next verses. For this reason, they could not believe. For Isaiah said again, he has blinded their eyes, and he has hardened their heart, so that they would not see with their eyes and perceive with their heart, and be converted, and I heal them. Here John goes beyond a simple were not believing to could not believe. And once again, the reason they could not believe was to fulfill another prophecy in which God was actively blinding and hardening them. Now, I find it rather odd that Christ would draw all men individually, while at the same time he is hardening individuals in order that they would not and could not believe. Christ is drawing all men, that is, all nations and people groups, while at the same time he is hardening individuals. Hardening is the opposite of drawing. If only Arminians would read and believe the context in which they find their proof text, they would no longer remain Arminians.